Hello, hello, hello. How you guys doing? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Longside. Today is a match reaction of the game last night. Of course, as you can tell, it's quite light here. I gave myself a night to think and ponder on last night. I wanted to wait until I got back to the office to think about the game that happened last night between Burnley and Watford. Of course, we've got a lot to go through here, and I've got a little different format here and structure for this series as well. So that is my voice right there. There you go. Just make sure the stream is actually up. And it is. There you go. Sorry about that. We've got a new structure for the reaction. So I've got 4 things that we learned that you'll be going into earlier on. But just that feeling of thank God for that. There's a lot to really go through in today. And I feel like, all in all, looking back on the game last night, I'm relatively happy. And I feel like people may be surprised by that, but the fact of the matter is that we really should have lost last night. Every single thing that happened last night felt like it was an obvious loss. The game just felt like it wasn't going our way. And everything that could go wrong did go wrong. If it was from their keeper having an absolute blinder, if it was from our keeper having a massive howler when it comes to us having big chances hitting the post and having opportunities that usually would go in, not go in, and especially in the first half, our first touches wasn't exactly on point. And not as good as what you would typically think of a typical Vincent Kompany Burnley side. So I think with hindsight, a draw is great because of the manner that we did it, but also I think a draw is also pretty good in terms of the fact that it's another example of us not performing to our usual high standards and still coming out with a result. The only time that I've really felt like we wasn't going to win was last night and at maybe Stoke away, even a bit of Coventry at home since our winning streak, which started after Sheffield United away. And I think that only shows how, dare I say, spoilt we are. I feel like we're spoilt as Burnley fans, that we are so used to high standards and success rates that isn't normal at any other club. You go to any club in world football. Now, of course, we're in a championship, but hear me out here. You've got Arsenal's and City's and Real Madrid's or whoever else, right? Bayern Munich's, they don't perform to the highest standards every single day, every single game, okay? Now, I'm not comparing us to Bayern Munich and City, for example, but you get my point. What we've learned, and I'm going to go into it right here, down below, into step number 1, the players are human. The lads today, they showed last night that they're human, that they won't have a perfect touch every single time. They won't have everything clicked together perfectly every single time. And example with Muric I will go into, trust me, that we are bound to make a mistake. And because of the high risk, high reward tactic, I guess you could say, the style that we've implemented into our club, it is at a risk of making an error every now and then. That we have so much pressure, we have so much of the ball, and we allow ourselves to go in such great positions that most clubs won't have the ability to, because we know that we can take a few more players, a few more yards up the pitch than usual. And last night, I'll go into the stats here. We weren't exactly that bad. I'll go into it right here. There we go. Boom. To the left-hand side here, right? Last night, 69% possession, 14 shots to their 4, 5 on target, and a big one here, if I scroll down, 4 big chances and 3 big chances missed. Hit the woodwork twice, and we had no goalkeeper saves. We were relatively solid for the large majority of the game. And when it comes to Watford, Bachmann, I hate this guy so much that he seems to always be fantastic when we play against Watford. He was quite good last night. Now, of course, it may be a bit more skewed, the tactics, because in the first half, it looked more like this. Again, high possession, but we were definitely a lot more prone to being turned over in the first half. We made a few errors with the ball, usually that we are so confident on the ball, and at times, the quality of Watford, the high press, high energy, we've got a lot of good very good young players in João Pedro and Ismail Sarr. So if any team I felt like was able to counteract our style of play, it would probably be Watford, because not only have they got the high energy and press to actually attack our high possession style of play, but also they've got the quality, and last night that's shown. So I just want to kind of put some balance like that. Even though last night it felt like we played quite poorly to what we usually do, that's the exact point. We are spoilt as Burnley fans, and we are so used to a high standard of play that when we have a little bit of a dip, it feels like the end of the world. But most teams play nowhere near as good as what we did last night, and that just shows how far we have come, not only by the quality, but also by the depth as well. So I want to have a quick little look at chat here. Backerman is he's always a penny loss against us. I support Watford. What do we need to improve? Watford, I think that you went out in the style of play that was best suited to face Burnley. You got that high press, and you've got quality on the counter, you've got pace, and you've got the quality. I think João Pedro was a fantastic footballer, and I think I even said that he is maybe the best player in the Championship on his day. Like, in terms of the highest ceiling, he is way, way up there, I must say. Centre-backs will also go into them as well. But yeah, in terms of stats, it feels a lot worse than what it actually was. And I think that is important to highlight. So, up next, the Muric debate. A lot has been said about Muric in the last 7 days, from the absolute blinder day he played against Preston to what happened last night. And I kind of want to talk about this with you guys here, and feel free and comment down below. When it comes to Muric, because of the style of play we're trying to implement, he's so unique in what he offers that it does play an element that sometimes you've got to take the good with the bad sometimes. And people have a right to maybe question him in terms of being a goalkeeper, and I think that is valid, and it does offer the question and the debate of when, if we do get promoted next year to the Premier League, would he still be our number one? Do we still have confidence on him still being a number one next year in the Premier League? And I say yes, but not confidently. I would not be surprised if by the time we are this time next year in Premier League, hopefully, that Muric would not be our number one goalkeeper. I don't think that is an impossible thing to think about, mainly because we've seen this team come leaps and bounds in such a short space of time, and we've already seen, as we go into next, about the players that we brought in January, that there's so many other players out there that is on the radar for Vincent Kompany and Alan Pace to bring in. So, look, when it comes to Muric, last night he made a big mistake, right? And I saw some people say along the lines of, if you are having a go at him for last night, then you don't know football. He made a big mistake last night. Okay, we can all agree with that. But you can call someone out for a mistake and still also appreciate the fact that they have been good for quite a long time. And when I think of the last time that he's really had a poor game or a poor moment, it was probably back in November against Sheffield United. He made some big saves, but I think his commandment in the box that day really urged Sheffield United to really come at us, and that's what punished us that day. So, yeah, Muric, I think he's earned the right to make one or two mistakes every now and then, and if you think about it, it's been quite a long time since Muric has looked or has had a moment like that. In terms of him coming off at half-time, it has come out from Kompany that he felt a bit ill before the game, if that was from, I don't know, stomach bug or maybe a muscle strain or maybe even a headache. I don't know. If it is that, then fine. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he was also took off to protect him, because I think we can all see that after that moment happened for the first goal, for Watford's goal, Muric's mistake, I feel like he was rocked, and I don't blame him for being rocked, because in our kind of style of play, we need all of our players to be fully brave on the ball and to be confident on what they are doing. And Muric is the one most important person that you want to play with full confidence. So I wouldn't have blamed Kompany on bringing him off because he felt like he would have been rocked by that event, and that to protect him from potentially making another mistake. I don't think that's... I saw someone say on Twitter that, it's poor man management to take him off after just one mistake. It's awful. I think it's good man management. I think Company knows him. Keep in mind, it's not like Company and Muric aren't already well aware of each other. They played with each other for years at City. They won trophies together at City, right? And the Cup run, Carabao Cup, he was part of that as well. Company knows Muric quite well. And maybe I wouldn't be surprised if he took him off to protect him because, again, from a moment like that, I do believe that he wouldn't have played that second half with the same confidence that he would have if he didn't make that mistake. So, yeah, I think Muric, again, next game against Luton this weekend, I think he will start again. And I think that he's earned the right to make that mistake. So that's my kind of stance with Muric. But I'm still open to the conversation that maybe he still wouldn't be our number one next year. Because, I don't know, he's made big saves at times, but I think because we're Burnley, we are so used to almost near-perfect goalkeepers. We've had Tom Heaton to Nick Popes. We've had an almost near-perfection of goalkeepers for the last, almost decade now, right? So when we get someone that's a little bit raw on some edges here, we see it as a big problem. But if you compare Muric to a lot of other goalkeepers in the same league that we're in, or even on a lower tier of Premier League, look at maybe, let's say, for example, Meslier, right, at Leeds. They're still a bit raw. They're still not completely perfect at the edges, and I think there's one thing to keep in mind with Muric. So that's my kind of 2 cents to that debate. Next up, number 3, about the 4 things we learned. The January window was absolutely genius from the club. Because if we now look at the situation, before January hit, we had Jordan Bayer and we had Howard Bellis, and it looked like they were indestructible, perfect, moulded, solidified into our team. And now look at what's happened now. Bellis is now out for 2-3 months, and Bayer could now be out for a couple of weeks. I think he's definitely missing Luton and Millwall. That's what I read in the presser after the game. It won't be a long time out for Bayer, but it will be at least 2-3 weeks at the very least, right? And we're now looking at our bench and looking at our window. Thank God we brought in Ekdal. Thank God we brought in Al-Dakir. And I thought they were both incredible last night. Ekdal, incredible, I gotta say. And I think he's close to being my man of the match, especially when you keep in mind how long he's been here. He's been here for not even a month, and he looks like he's been here since the start of the season. So composed on the ball, he takes big risk when it comes to stepping forward in the pitch and does it consistently. And also when it came to being a defender and putting your body on the line, he did that great as well. So Ekdal, it shows the just incredible success rate in the market, and we can't be too surprised because he is, at the end of the day, a Swedish international, right? He is. So it shouldn't be surprised that he's quite good. But Al-Dakir, when he came on after Bayer's injury, I felt like he was solid. Not maybe as good on the ball as Ekdal, but I think that is also a fact that he just played a bit more cautious. I feel like he has got that in his locker, made some great passes through the lines, I noticed. And when it came to defensive work, he didn't have too much to do in that second half, exactly. But for a lad that's 20 years of age, he looks quite promising too and really exciting. And then, of course, when it comes to January signings, Lyle Foster comes on the pitch, Obafemi comes on the pitch, and these are the fine margins that I would say get promoted, but I think we kind of already would be without them. But to win a title or to potentially break a 100 points mark or 106 or whatever else, right? These are the fine margins of quality that you need for quality and also depth. And Obafemi and Lyle Foster, it was a really tough situation for them to come into because you're playing a Watford team with a good team. Watford are not a poor team by any means. People may look at their form and scoff at the fact that we only drew, but look at their team on paper. They should not be as poor they have been this year. And that's largely due to injuries, right? So they've got a very good defence. Kamara, I say, is one of the best left-backs in the league. I put him as high up as Maatsen. Hoyt looked solid. He's got many appearances in the Premier League. He's also a very good centre-back as well. And it was tough, man, because when they got so many players in the final third, it's hard to expect Obafemi or Lyle Foster to really make too much happen, right? And not too much really did happen when it comes to us making chances. And again, that is just a fact of us not playing to our usual standards, right? And that happens, right? That's fine. Like, if we lost last night, I wouldn't have been mad. I literally would have been like, it's football. You can't... These things happen, right? I would not have been upset. I would not have been sad. I would have just kind of, not relieved, but like, I would have just been like, yes, okay, just kind of just shrug your shoulders, move on to the next game. Because I felt like even if we did lose, it wouldn't have played a big factor in our season anyway, right? Look at Fulham last year. They lost like 10 games, I think, near the end of the year. And look at what they're doing now. But these lads, they've got a will. They've got a way. And that goal was a prime example of that. And tell me this as well, chat. Isn't it always better when you score a goal in the 90th minute, whatever it is, right? And you see the goalkeeper go up the pitch for a set piece and that you see them celebrating with the team. That felt so much better, man. It felt so nice to see. It just feels better, right? To see the goalkeeper celebrate with the team. Because you know when you're a goalkeeper, you're not really a part of the team for that kind of aspect. You kind of always away to the side. So I'm happy for Peacock Farrell for getting that chance as well. I think that considering how long he's been at Burnley, not really getting too much of a chance, I'm really happy for him for that moment as well. And speaking as well, when he came on, I thought that he was pretty good as well. Didn't have really anything to do. I mean, have a look here when it comes to stats in the second half. One shot in that entire second half for Watford. So he didn't really need to do much, but he did his job, right? He did his job. So that's just how it is. And then number 4, in terms of things we learnt last night for me was screaming for Manuel Benson. Last night felt like the perfect Manuel Benson game. And if we had Benson on and we had him available to be subbed on in the 60th minute, we would have went on to win that game. I am utterly sure of it. We've seen it time and time again when Benson came on in the last half an hour of the game to completely shape things up. He did it against Reading. He did it against Rotherham. He did it against Middlesbrough. Actually, I think it started the game, actually. You know what I mean? He's made many opportunities this year, and he is an exceptional footballer in those tight spaces. Against a low block, he's so perfect at that role. And if we had him last night, I believe that would have been the difference. And also, speaking of players missing, last night, in that first half especially, it felt like we really needed a cork. I felt like Cork would have been a better start in this kind of game, because I really do rate Watford's midfield. I felt like we were being turned over a bit too often in the first half. And I felt like Cork with Cullen would have been the play. By no means do I think Brownhill did particularly anything bad, but I felt like Cork and his just assured attitude and his just calmness, I think that would have been better to kind of manage when the game got a bit heated in the first half, because we did get turned over a few more times than we would have liked, and if Watford had a bit more quality, they could have made it 2, and it could have been a completely different game. So I want to go into here quickly about the average positions here. I like this aspect because I like looking at how he was shaped in the game. So to the left hand side, you can see our average position in the game. So Muric, this time outside the box in that first half. Bayer and Ekdal, of course. Bayer, of course, was to his usual standard. Sadly came off, but I think he's not out for too long. Maatsen as well. Maatsen, we'll go into the player ratings. I'll go into that quite soon. Maatsen, Roberts really high at the pitch this game, and I find this very interesting as well. Very interesting, because Brownhill was meant to be playing as a CDM, lower midfielder alongside Cullen. But you can see here, it was really just Cullen that kind of role. And Brown had a lot more freedom to go high up the pitch and offer support alongside Teller and Roberts. Barnes, I love Barnes' positioning. Barnes, again, last night, really good. I really liked Barnes' performance last night. Dropped deep, used both his feet to switch out to play, and he was incredible yet again. Gudmundsson, I didn't notice too much of him last night. Surprising, actually, ahead of Barnes, actually. And then Zaruri in the first half and second half. We could talk about that, actually. So let's go into player ratings. So in the chat down below, give me your player ratings as I go through them. So Muric, player rating. I mean, I don't want to be... I don't want to lie to myself here when it comes to things like this. So I've got to give a 3. I've got to, it's not being harsh to him. If it wasn't for him and that mistake, which I felt like was a mistake on his part, he could have caught it, he could have headed it, he could have kicked it better, right? I give it a 3, because if it wasn't for him and that mistake, we could have and probably would have went on to win the game, right? So that's not being anything too harsh to him. It is that one mistake is the reason why we didn't win the game. that's just, and when that does happen, it's a big mistake. I've got to give it a 3. I'm sorry. Roberts, I put down a 7. I put down a 7 because I felt like, especially in that second half, he was always involved in terms of transitioning the ball up the pitch, was always a part of ball carrying, getting the high up there as fast as possible. So I give Roberts a 7. Chat for Muric saying sits, 2.75, sits 5. Maybe I'm being harsh on Muric here, but maybe I give a 4. It's just when you make a mistake that drastic, I kind of just feel like it can't be any higher than a 5. It can't be, or 4. That's just kind of the way I see football anyway. So Roberts, I give a 7. For the chat, you say 6, 8, and a 7. Ekdal, I'll give an 8. I'm going to give an 8, but just because he did also play a factor in that first goal of maybe a lack of communication and trying to clear it. He didn't get it out. That's why it makes me think maybe a 7 because he did play a factor in that first goal. Other than that one moment, I felt like he was really good. So 8, but because of his part of the first goal, I kind of think that could be a 7 because, it was a really unfortunate event, but it could have been dealt with better, of course. We can all agree with that, right? So I'll say 7.5. Okay, 7.5, right? So Aldakio, 7. I think it's a 7 for me. Played very solid for me. He made no real mistakes. He was a bit more cautious, I felt like, because we're so used to Bayer and Bellis being so confident and stepping into midfield. He didn't need to do that this much this time, but he was still solid and didn't look out of place whatsoever, which is really good. He's still 20. He's been here for again, no longer than a month, and Ekdal should look a bit more assured as he has got much more experience and, of course, international for Sweden, right? So Dakio, I'll say 7. And of course, I'll say Bayer because he was off in first half. Again, 7, Bayer. Not too much to say. I kind of forgot about what really happened, but it wasn't his fault for the first goal, I'll say. So, Maatsen, I'll give a 6 for Maatsen. I feel like Maatsen, I feel harsh to say it, but I think he tried really hard at times to be very direct, especially in that second half, and I felt like he tried so hard that he gave the ball away a few times. He was really sprinting up the pitch and just kind of got caught out a few times, and I'll say a 6, mainly because we're so used to a very high standard of Maatsen that I feel like when he has a bit of an off day, it's much more noticeable. People saying 4s and 5s, I give a 6. I think defensively he wasn't really bad. People saying 3 for Maatsen. Wow, you guys are really critical of him, to be fair, actually. I kind of feel like with Maatsen, maybe you could say a 5, I guess, in grand scheme of things, but I don't think it was really his fault for that first goal. Maybe he could have gotten away with João Pedro, but I don't know. I don't think he gave away too much. I mean, what was his rating here? If I look at SofaScore, how many times did he lose possession of the ball? Maybe I forgot. In terms of accurate passes, 79%, 1 key pass, and possession lost 17 times, 1/2 of his ground duels and 1/2 of his aerial duels. I'll say 6, right? I'll give it 6. I'm okay with that. Cullen, for me, I gotta say man of the match. I'll give Cullen an 8. I think Cullen was fantastic, especially with the fact that Brownhill played so much higher than what he would usually have as his kind of midfield pairing. He was quite lonely in that pivot. It wasn't a double pivot, really. It was just him by himself. So he had a lot in his hands, and I felt like he was great the entire game. In the first half and second half, I felt like he was really composed and really moved us up the pitch quite fast and made sure that we kept the ball in situations that he was pressed quite a lot. He was pressed really badly. Well, pressed really well at times by Watford, and he dealt with it. I don't really remember him having really many issues, other than maybe I think Maatsen giving quite a poor pass in that first half, but Cullen for me is man of the match. I felt like he was really good, and if it wasn't for him, it definitely would have been a completely different game. Brownhill, 6. I think 6 is okay. I didn't really notice too much from him. If I'm thinking of moments in the game, he just kind of kept it ticking, which is fine, and helped up the pitch to help alongside the likes of Teller and Roberts, but I think Brownhill's a 6. Not bad, but just was there, right? And I think that's fair. Chat saying 5. People for Cullen, people said 6s and 7s. One guy said a 9 as well. 6 as well for Brownhill. So yeah, I think that's okay. for Browno at the very least. Let's get into the attackers now. So for Johan Berg Goodmanson, I gave a... I think I gave a 6 again, or 7. A 6.5. I feel like, he's good in terms of getting the ball up the pitch, like out wide to Zaroury, who Zaroury was definitely not in his game as we are used to. So I say a 6 for Goodmanson. Again, not too much was really created, but I don't think he really lost the ball really any time. So 6.5, maybe 6, I say, for Goodmanson. Didn't do anything too wrong, but, kept the ball, but not too much really happened from him, sadly. But I think it was early in the second half that the ball came to Barnes, and it was on the volley, so he just smashed it, but there was Johan in miles of space to his left, and if Barnes saw that, then maybe it would have been a different game. But yeah, moving on. Teller, 7 for Teller. I think out all of attackers weren't really on their game other than Teller, I think, and also Barnes. Teller tried, he ran his socks off, especially the end of the game. He was really on his arse, really, for the large part of it, and he kept trying, he kept pressing. He really was the main force of us being direct in that second half, especially. So, and also what we had some good moments in first half kind of came from him. It came from him as well, I think. So, yeah, I would say Teller a 7. Saying 7 for Teller. Okay. Zaroury. I got to go with a 5. I think I have to. It was one of the poorer games for Zaroury, which is fine, because when you got a winger, they're usually, as wingers come, it's very rare that you get one that's perfect every single game, especially one like Zaroury that is reliant on taking players on one-to-one situations. I feel like at times he kind of rushed chances. Like, he was very, very... he kept on forcing it at times. I felt like he kept on trying to cut inside and shoot, or cut inside and go for a cross that at times weren't really on. He just kind of just forced it, and it's fine. He's still young, and I don't think he's earned the credit in a bank to have a kind of off game. Because Gaspar is a decent right back. I felt like he would have had a bit more luck, because Gaspar isn't exactly known for being agile or particularly pacey. But they did play quite a deep line, especially in that second half. But people, you guys are saying 6, 5.5, 4. People saying that he looked a bit drained, which is fair to say. He has played a lot of football, more football than what he's used to, because I think back in Belgium he didn't really play that much, really. So yeah, we'll go for a 5 for Zaroury. It feels bad, but yeah. And then Barnes, I put him a 7. I felt Barnes was really good. He's really shaped himself in that role really well when it comes to him dropping deep and then finding space to the left or to the right, left foot or right foot, to either wingers. I feel like when he drops deep and he's really good at holding off play and laying people up, I think it was really good yesterday. And Barnes is surprising me almost every game now in terms of how good he really is, in terms of just keeping it simple, really. And yes, you may say another game that a striker hasn't scored, and he did have that chance in the first minute of the game, which you can say he should have scored. But I mean, it was a good save, really. Came off the bar, so it's quite unfortunate, really. So people chat saying 8, 7, 7.9, not just an 8, 7.9. Okay, we'll do that. Okay, to the bench. Peacock Farrell. I mean, 7. I mean, he had a single shot on him. Well, it was off target, so he didn't need to do anything. He was just there. And because of his celebrations at the end, I kind of like to think that he's the reason why we scored. His presence in the box, that extra man, put a bit more, I don't know how to say it, threat in there, a bit more of a strain and a stress for the Watford player. So I like to think that because of Peacock Farrell, that's the reason why we scored. 7, I go for that. He didn't need to do anything, but he was fine. I mean, he passing the balls wise, he was fine. Foster, I want to say 6 again. Like, I don't think he has the strength of Barnes yet. He needs to still learn to exactly know how long to keep a ball sometimes. He did make some good runs and didn't get found, which is quite unfortunate. Foster, I think, will take some time. I can see little bits of him that he has got a bit of an edge to him to, push a player off, but sometimes he could be quite easy to defend for me. So, yeah, it's just one of them that when you bring in a striker, when the entire team has got their entire team in the back third, basically, it is tough. So, yeah, for that reason alone, I give him a 6. Twine, I think Twine maybe a 7. I felt like, especially in the transition, I felt like he was very helpful in terms of just keeping the ball up, left foot, right foot, just get it to his feet and then move it on quite fast. Maybe you may say it's quite unfair to say Foster 6 and Twine 7, but I felt like Twine had more time on the ball. He had much more time on the ball to move it up. I felt like it was fine. It was pretty good, to be fair. And then we've already went into Al-Dakil, of course. So we gave him a 7. And then Obafemi, it has to be an 8. I mean, he didn't really do too much before that. But again, it is tough when you're playing the last 5 minutes and the entire team is in their entire back third. So he's playing against 11 men and having 3 men in front of him. He can't really do much, to be fair. But look, he's got to go 8. Simple as that, really. I can't really doubt that, really. And then there's Vincent Kompany. A match rating for Vincent Kompany. It's a tough one, to be fair, because I still would have felt like Cork would have been more suited to this game than Brownhill. Maybe you could go back to the old route of having Brownhill as a 10 and then having Cork back with Cullen, because I really do like the midfield at Watford, and I felt like, with Shudery, I felt like it would have been really good to have Cork in there and his assurance and his experience, right? So, yeah, I feel like that's the only thing I would have changed in the lineup, particularly. But I felt like he made changes relatively on the right time. Maybe Obafemi could have been on a bit earlier, taking off Roberts, really going for it at the end, which I like that. I like the fact he just took off Roberts and said, okay, everyone get up the pitch. So, 8, I think. 7.5, I think 7.5 for Kompany. I do, even though we have heard from Kompany that he did take off Muric because he was ill before the game. We don't know what that illness was. Was it a headache or was it a stomach bug or muscle strain? We don't know what, but I do like to think that he took him off because of the fact that he thought that he was rocked. And for a player like Muric, you need to be in full confidence on what you're doing on the ball to do what he does. So, yeah, I like to think that is a reason why he got took off. Because to me, that shows great man management, knowing a player, knowing that I think he's protecting him more than anything else, because if he goes out that second half and makes another mistake, I think that would have destroyed him, really. So I think he's being careful of that. So that's kind of how I felt he managed Muric, really, and he's done really well in terms of the press conferences, and he always speaks in such confidence, and I honestly, I'll go to war for that man. I really would. Chat, tell me down below. If you guys would want to talk about anything else, feel free. And of course, if you're new here, please do drop a subscription on the channel as well. We're live here basically every other day or every day, pretty much with the podcast work and reactions for each game as well. So if you guys want to throw anything else my way that I've missed out on, then feel free and send it away. So I've not really spoken about it, but in terms of the record-breaking, 11 wins in a row. Sadly, it didn't work out that way. But look, right, the reason why we went on, myself and everyone else, have gone banging on about it, because it is so hard to win 10 games in a row in the league, especially in the championship as well. It's so tough because you're going to be on your game, and even if you're not on your game, you're still going to win games, and that's what we did against Stoke and what we did against Coventry as well. We weren't on our game, and we still got results right, so yeah, there's not a single team in the world who is on it every single game, right? And yesterday, we weren't completely on it, but we were still decent. Not to our full standards, but it was still decent. And if it wasn't for one real, drastic mistake at the back, we would have went on to win that game, potentially. And that's just the margins in it. I don't know Sean Dyche, but fine margins, but that's just kind of what happened last night, really. The away support, look, it's Watford coming up to Burnley on a Tuesday night in their poor form. I don't really blame Watford fans for not having a massive following going to Turf Moor, really. But I felt like Watford were pretty good. I think they were good that day. The players who have been missing a lot this year and injuries, I feel like they are slowly now coming back to the team. And I think Watford, they should be in top 6 with their team, but I guess you just never know. So, Looking ahead, Luton away this weekend in 3 days' time, of course, in the Championship. We all love it. Games come thick and fast. And we got back-to-back away games here. So to end off this stream, I want you guys to give me your predictions for Luton Town away and Millwall away. Keep in mind as well the fact that Bayer would definitely be missing for the game, and for both those two games, I'm pretty sure I heard in the presser, and also as well in terms of injuries, I believe J-Rod and Benson are both on the verge of coming back. J-Rod just slightly ahead of Benson, so I believe we may see J-Rod maybe on the bench against Luton, but considering the strikers that we have, maybe he doesn't need to be on there. But Benson, I think, my prediction is for Millwall away, he'd be there on the bench. But I'll be quite surprised, I'll be honest, man, if he does start. Because especially against Millwall, I can't see it. So I think the next time we'll see Benson properly is against Huddersfield on the 25th, right? That's when I expect to see him. So Luton Town away, Millwall away, we got 2 wins. I mean, if we get 2 wins in a row against Luton away and Millwall away, who are both very tough away days. They are very, very tough away days. They're good sides. Luton right now are currently 4th. Millwall right now are currently 7th, right? These are 2 massive games, right? So if we come away, right, with 2 wins, I still think that the 106 point charge is on, but it's a big if. Like, if we come out with a win and a draw against those 2, I would be buzzing. I would love it, as long as we just don't lose. If it's 2 draws, it would be it'd be fine. You know, we've earned the right to have 2 draws, but a win and a draw, 4 points out of Luton and Millwall away, I would love that, right? So that's my prediction in terms of what I think will happen and what I want to happen anyway. And then after that, Huddersfield at home, and then Fleetwood Town in the FA Cup 5th round. Go on to Wembley, boys. Hopefully. You never know. It's Burnley, so don't doubt us from losing that game anyway. So, yeah, boys, I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you for being here. And, yeah, in terms of last night, look, we've earned the right to have a draw. If having a draw makes us feel like the world is ending, then that just shows how good we really are. And we saw it against Sheffield United that we lost pretty convincingly, or quite devastatingly, and we went on to go win 10 in a bounce, right? So I don't think mentally, I think having a draw will really help us, because if we lost, maybe that could have had maybe a bit of a shake, but a draw, I think they'll kick on and will be business as usual. So thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you guys' time, and I'll see you guys for a podcast on Thursday night. So tomorrow night I got a podcast with 2 new people in the community. So of course, make sure to go follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, or subscribe here as well. And I'll see you guys next time for another